the harmonics do tend to resonate in the region of the third eye, especially as you project them. And so this very often gives one access to higher ideas, to higher awareness, connecting with your guides, and seeing through the veil of illusion.
And I also think that the more grounded you are, the higher you can access.
And that's why people feel this magical feeling. It's because when you hear harmonics, everything starts to shift back into alignment. The chakras align, and of course, as you know, the chakras are related to the endocrine system. A lot of healthy bodily responses occur, as well as the release of endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, that when we sing harmonics, we are sounding the mathematics of creation. And so when we sound out the harmonics, we are saying, I am one with all, that I am vibrating in resonance with the all, with the creator, and with the way that the source, the creator, has chosen.
People singing or hearing overtones for the first time, their jaw literally drops, because I think it reminds them of something, It reminds them of something very deep within.
But it was Pythagoras in the Western historical line who discovered the harmonics and
I think from Indian scriptures perspective, there is a Veda called as Sama Veda. There are 4 Vedas, and out of that Sam Ved is all singing, and it's about music, chanting, and Hi, this is Akanksshaa. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. If you resonate with me, please like, comment, and share. Welcome to Multidimensional Soul Podcast and a Talk Show. We have with us today Nestor and Michele, all the way from Spain, and they specialize in harmonics and sound healing. A very warm welcome, Nestor and Michele, on Multidimensional Soul Podcast and Talk Show. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, namaste. So you talk about harmonics, especially being the connection between spirit and matter. And now that we are moving as Earth, as a collective consciousness, we are moving into higher vibration. So can you talk about the significance of this connection? How harmonics plays the role between spirit and matter?
I've always been very fascinated by this idea, and it's become clearer and clearer to me over the years as I discover not just the technique of singing it and how it makes me feel and how it makes my students feel, but also examining the mathematics and the sacred geometry and the history of these harmonics. I am convinced that when we sing harmonics, we are sounding the mathematics of creation. We are focusing into the specific way that sound chooses to arrange itself in nature. And so when we sound out the harmonics, we are saying, I am one with all. I reaffirm that I am vibrating in resonance with the all, with the creator, and with the way that the source, the creator, has chosen for sound to express itself on at least this planet in this particular incarnation. And so when I sing harmonics, I really do feel connected with spirit and matter at the same time.
Yes, for me, it's a way of walking between the worlds, or moving between the veils, from the earth to the sky. It is when I sing overtones and incorporate harmonics in my singing, then I feel that it's like opening my wings and being able to really expand out into that beautiful dimension of all that is, and then coming back to the fundamental sound without the overtones, or at least without the overtones audible, then it feels like I'm landing again as a human and bringing with me the knowledge and that higher frequency vibration. And I love the dance between the two. I'm not such a great harmonics or overtone singer, not like this guy here. I'm more a singer, chanter. That's been my life, singing, expressing myself with my voice. But I do so enjoy the play between the two worlds, the worlds of just that, the world of sound as humans know it, really, and then going into the overtones, which is something I think we have just forgotten. And it is so beautiful to bring those two worlds together.
Oh, beautiful. So for our audience who are not really probably so much tuned with the technical terminology, can you please explain exactly harmonics and the overtone, the terminology?
Okay. The truth is that harmonics is the correct terminology for overtones. Overtones is a word that was more recently invented, particularly in the Anglo-Saxon languages, English, German, Swedish, etc. They use a variation of overtones, Overtone, etc. But actually the correct terminology is harmonics. Now, harmonics are the pure frequencies of which all sounds are made. They are the building blocks of sound. So when one can use very effectively the analogy of white light so that people can understand. We know and we learn at school that when we put a beam of white light through a prism, on the other side, the different pure frequencies of light are reflected like the rainbow. They are refracted because they're traveling at different velocities. And so we see the 7 colors of the visible spectrum. Of course, there are many more colors that we cannot see, very much like sound. When we hear a sound, it, like white light, is not a pure frequency. It's not a pure frequency that would be represented by a single line sine wave or sinusoidal wave. In fact, when you hear the voice, or what I like to call the voice of a musical instrument, then you are hearing a fundamental tone that is rich, very, very rich in hundreds of thousands of harmonics. And each of those harmonics, just like the colors in white light, give the timbre, the tone, color, texture to the sound that you are hearing, so that your ear can identify, is this a human voice, or is it the voice of a piano or a violin or a monochord or a sitar, etc. And so although we all have the very same harmonics in our voices, there will be different regions of this harmonic spectrum that we have in the voice that will be different from one individual to another, thus giving a specific sound, color, or tone to each person's voice. And if you look up the definition of harmonics in the dictionary, it will say whole number multiples of a fundamental tone or frequency. Very simply put, for the people who will be watching this, or who are watching this, if you sing a frequency of 100 hertz, make it a simple number, then that is regarded as the first harmonic. The second harmonic will then appear above that, and then the third, etc. And they will have, each time you just plus 100, So they will have the frequencies of 200, 300, 400, 500, etc. It's very, very simple relationship. Whatever tone you are singing or the instrument is singing, it will contain all the harmonics that are multiples of that frequency. And the interesting thing is, if you are singing in the note C or Do or Sa, Saja, then your harmonics will all be multiples of that tone and related harmoniously to that tone. And it's infinite. It's an infinite scale that goes on forever. So if you sing in Sa, you will never reach Re, for example. You will only be in the tuning of Sa. If you're working with the Indian scale, or if in the Western scale, if you're singing C or Do, then you will always be in the scale of C or Do. What I can do, put on original sound for musicians and see if the overtones will carry through the microphone. It can be tricky, but I can perhaps sing a little scale. Well, that was just a very small scale because I was concerned that if I went to much higher frequencies, the microphone might go into panic. The harmonics acoustically are perceived as like a flute or a flute-like sound which plays above the voice. And an accomplished vocal harmonic singer can create melodies above his or her voice by manipulating the mouth cavity and creating a beautiful flute above the voice. And oh, by the way, I never actually clarified the exact difference between harmonics and overtones. So it's actually just where you start counting from. If you are talking harmonics, then the fundamental tone, the one that you sing with your voice or play on the instrument, is harmonic number one. If you are talking language with someone about overtones, then the fundamental is just called the fundamental. It's not given a numerical value. So therefore, the first overtone is equal to the second harmonic. Okay, so harmonics 1 to 16 is what you will most commonly see. If you look at the harmonic series, they normally only go up to the 16th harmonic. The reason for that is because it's based on Pythagoras dividing the string into 16 equal pieces, and he ran out of string. But actually, we have many more harmonics, and we can sing up to, I can sing up to the 24th or 25th harmonic or higher. Depending on the height of your voice. But it's actually the only difference between harmonics and overtones is from where you start counting. They are exactly the same thing. It's either harmonic 1 and then the rest, or fundamental and overtones to 15. Okay, so that's really the only difference between harmonics and overtones for those people who are in doubt, because English is one of the few languages that uses both those terminologies, being half Latin based and half Anglo-Saxon based.
It's a technique, though. I mean, it's not something that was just recently invented.
Yeah.
This has happened in many indigenous cultures. People have created vocal sounding that have included harmonics. Maybe you'd like to talk about the origins of the Mongolian, Tibetan.
Well, I mean, just in the Western historical line, I say the Western because perhaps you have references in Sanskrit to harmonics that I'm unaware of, and I'm almost certain that there would be in Sanskrit writings from the past, because I know the Sufis have definitely been aware harmonics for quite some time. But it was Pythagoras in the Western historical line who discovered the harmonics and the exact relationship of all the overtones or harmonics to the fundamental tone of the voice or instrument. And he did that with an Egyptian monochord 2,600 years ago. And yet we have so many students who are musicians and they've never heard anything about harmonics. It's like in the music conservatories, you can study an instrument for 12 years and they do, you have one half a page on harmonics that is just mentioned as a theoretical thing. But yet all of modern music and musical scales are based on the harmonics because that's what there was, a few 100,000 years ago when they first started playing the musical bows. The Bushmen of Southern Africa started to make music with the wooden bow. And then the Jew's harp or the Jaw's harp were overtone instruments. Those were the very beginning of music, hundreds of thousands of years ago. So it's quite strange that they don't put a bit more attention onto it in music schools and in the musical side of things.
And then, of course, there's the Mongolian and the Tuvan practice of harmonics, overtone singing, which was created by them imitating the nature around them, the horses as they galloped over the
steppes of Central Asia, yeah,
and the wind and the snow. They heard the harmonics in the wind. In fact, when you start learning harmonics, you start to really hear them in so many things, even in your fridge or in a motorbike or in a baby crying or in different places where they've always been, but you just never heard them. There are so many people also, aren't there, Nestor, that say, wow, that sound, how do you do that? That's magical. And Nestor has taught so many people over the last 30 years how to produce overtones in a very, very simple way. And he had no teacher at all. In fact, he'll tell you himself that I was the one who learned a very, very quick, let's say, shortcut to doing some few overtones from Jill Peirce in London many, many, many years ago. And I came back to him and I said, look what I can do, like this, And he went, wow, I can hear the overtones. And I was like, no, really? Can you hear the overtones in that? And he just dedicated his time to really refining it and finding a way of teaching people how to sing. And the beauty is, and I love it, I so much appreciate it when I see people singing or hearing overtones for the first time, their jaw literally drops, because I think it reminds them of something, It reminds them of something very deep within. It jolts a memory of something that is very respectful, very graceful, very beautiful. It kind of illuminates the world suddenly. It brings the magic back into a 2 or 3 dimensional existence here and throws it into a multi-dimensional existence. People go, wow, how can you do that? What is that sound? That sound touches me so deeply, So, yeah.
So yes, so when I heard Michele come back from this workshop 30 years ago and sing this little technique, I was immediately hooked. I was 30 years old. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. And then suddenly it was like an arrow, a nice arrow in my heart. In that moment, I knew my soul's purpose for being here. It was to work with sound, but through the medium, through the medium of harmonics. Mm-hmm. Because and that's why people feel this magical feeling. It's because when you hear harmonics, everything starts to shift back into alignment. The chakras align. And of course, as you know, the chakras are related to the endocrine system. So they provoke hormonal changes in the body. There are hormonal responses and enzymes that are released, nitric oxide. A lot of healthy bodily responses occur, as well as the release of endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, that help to provoke a deep meditative state. And I suppose Michele mentioned earlier, walking between the worlds. I'm walking between the worlds of spirit and science. And my mission really is to keep the magic, but reveal the mystery of sound. And together, then, the magic and the mystery of sound can travel side by side to assisting people into a more healthier state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think from Indian scriptures perspective, there is a Veda called as Sama Veda. There are 4 Vedas, and out of that, Sam Ved is all singing, and it's about music, chanting, and I do know that there is a specific Veda attributed just specifically to music, chanting, and sound, essentially.
Well, I know even in the Indian Tampura, where they pull a bit of cotton, a thread of cotton, under the strings, under the bridge of the instrument, to make the strings buzz.
Yes.
And when the strings buzz, you get a very clear overtone arpeggio, like a da-da-da-da-dum. And so I can tell that Indian musicians, at least for several hundred years, have been fully aware of the overtone.
For tuning the instrument, they do that. Yes.
I remember go ahead.
No, I used to play sitar, so I
beautiful. That is very complicated. Yeah, that takes a lot of study. Yes.
Yeah.
Our daughter, our oldest daughter, used to play sitar. But yeah, the tampura. I remember we first got our very first tampura. We were mesmerized by it, and that's all we had really. We had a singing bowl as well. This is like 30 years ago.
4 simple strings.
Yeah, and we sat there in our living room on the floor, and we plucked those 4 strings for at least 4 hours. At least I remember it that long, because it just invited us to travel on the sacred sound wave, and just help us to travel outwards. And of course, when you travel outwards, you are traveling inwards to your inner universe. And it was just really beautiful.
I think for me, it was because it wasn't a guitar. It was a stringed instrument that provided a drone, a beautiful bass sound that supports the voice without melody. And for me, and not being a musician, I always felt left out of that secret society of musicians who know secrets that nobody else knows, and had felt very left out. And then suddenly I discover stringed instruments that I can play, because it's 4 simple strings. And yes, there are things to learn, of course, and sensitivity that one requires, to play an instrument well and with a beautiful flowing sound. But beyond that, it was something I could easily play. And then later, when we discovered the monochord, which is even easier, just a multiple stringed instrument with all the strings tuned to the same tone, which, of course, enriches the harmonics, but is also beautiful just to support the voice for intoning, singing, chanting, even mantra.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I myself come from a performing family. My father was an actor. My mother was a singer. And so my whole life was about structured music, songs and what we call traditional normal-looking instruments. And I didn't know there existed another world until that tempura and until the overtones came along. But for me, it's interesting because I dedicate now my life to helping people to understand how important. Sorry, we're moving the table up and down here all the time. I dedicate my life to helping the people to empower themselves through reclaiming their sovereignty through the power of their voice, through the connection of their voice. Because so many people feel that they have to sing to be able to sing, you have to sing in a certain way or like somebody else that is famous. And this toning and mantra and any enchanting does not require you to do that. It on the contrary, it brings you back to your authentic voice, your authentic you, the honesty, the essence of your vibration. It is the spokesman of your vibration, your voice. And when people just hear sounds in that pure and sacred way, then they can perceive themselves also in a simpler way, in a sacred way, and feel that respect for themselves. And that's why I think our life's journey through sound, sacred sound, with the harmonics and also without the harmonics, is a very we feel very privileged working with people for so many years and so many people around the world. We feel so privileged. When we say, oh, I'm working next month, in this place, or I'm working, and I think work is not the right word, because it's not like we're working. We are so filled ourselves. We fill ourselves up with so much energy and passion.
They say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's how we see it, because we're very busy doing sound. I won't say working. We're very busy in doing and sounding and being in the world of sound.
Yeah. And the sound has kept us together too, as a relationship. Because when you sing with someone, you every thing that annoys you about them, or anything that is disturbing the relationship in that moment, just totally shifts. It dissolves, and you come back to the heart, and you come back to the energy of your relationship and your commitment. And that is something that, that is the glue to our relationship. When I sit next to this man in a concert or in a sound journey, and we are offering our sound together, it is beautiful. It's making love. It's making love for us.
Beautiful. So in all traditions and cultures, there is a reference that sound came before light. Let there be light. So it is the closest to the source. So when we talk about harmonics and overtone, and that tied with, of course, sacred geometry, because that's how the universe was created. So when we want to go back to the source, how can we do that through the harmonics and overtone? What has been your experience, and can you share some of your profound spiritual experiences of going back to the source?
For me personally, when about 2 years after I started to learn to sing the overtones, the harmonics, we created on our land in Spain a very large sound dome, which we mentioned earlier to you. And this is the space where we hold all our events and teachings and trainings, etc. And I used to go in Spain. And I used to go very often when the family was all asleep, maybe at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I was still trying to improve my control of this beautiful harmonic singing technique, as I was mostly self-taught. and I would sit in the center of the dome, which is a very powerful, energetic space, and just sing until I was crying. And I felt huge emotional shifts as things came into alignment. Many suppressed emotions were released. And so it was a deep emotional healing. And I definitely felt very connected to Source. And I always feel connected to Source when I start singing Overtones, even if it's a musical performance in a sacred music festival, or even a world music festival, which doesn't have such a specifically sacred focus. For the first minute, I'm sitting there, in the concert on stage. My ego is there, of course. But within a minute of singing Overtones, it's like I disappear. And I become just the hollow bamboo through which the sound is flowing. It's like channeling sound. Mm-hmm. And in those times, I feel definitely one with the Source. And that's why I'm still so passionate after 30 years of teaching thousands of people, because I do really hope that they are able to experience that connection, that oneness through the harmonics. I know there are other ways of experiencing that through deep meditation and mantra, etc. But for me, harmonics is definitely the right vehicle, because it's also a musical expression of the mathematical construction of matter in nature, how the Creator has chosen to build all things, because everything is in vibration. We live in a vibratory universe, and so every vibration has its harmonics. And when we consciously sing in harmonics with our intention, then we join together with the intention of creation, which is to be in harmony. And that for me is a wonderful experience with a relatively simple technique.
For me, my spirituality is an active one. It's a lived one. I find it in a plant, or in a tree, or in my kitchen, or in I don't think there is a difference between my life as a human and my life as a person who is spiritual or having a spiritual experience. I was very much alone as a child. I didn't have brothers and sisters, and so for me, I had a lot of time to really connect with my environment, and I never ever felt alone. Like, I have never been bored in my life either, and I have never ever felt alone. And so for me, my spirituality, I think, is something that I can't separate from my human experience. Of course, sometimes when things annoy me, or I get sad about something tragic that has happened, then I feel pain. And of course, I am human. I have chosen to be human this time around. And so I have all the emotions that goes with the label of being human. But I don't go to a temple. I have to say, there is no temple that I go to specifically once a week or anything like that, because my spirituality is me. My temple is myself. And my masters have been all the people that come into, my environment through sympathetic resonance. And yes, and I think we are very privileged, Nestor and I, because we have so much of a feel-good moments in our life when we work with people and we see them coming into their hearts through the sounds and through the music and through the work of sound healing. It is a beautiful, beautiful experience that allows us and reminds us of our place in the puzzle of all. So that's my spirituality. That's my definition.
Yeah. My son actually recently, and he guides me, he told me that he's moved to next octave. And he's in 12th dimension. And he told me that he's now moved to the next octave. So I would love to know from you, if you were to access higher dimensions through the harmonics, how do we do that?
Just straight off the top of my head, I think one needs to be in a deep meditative state. I noticed from your introductory meditation that you work with energy and flowing the energy in a very similar way to the method that we learned 35 years ago or so, and that we teach our students, flowing the earth and the cosmic energy. And I think in order to access higher states of consciousness, it would be very difficult without some sort of energetic practice like that. I think so. That's very, very important. And I think intention, breath work, and sound together would be ideal for accessing a higher level of consciousness. And the one thing, the harmonics do tend to resonate in the region of the third eye, especially as you project them. And so this very often gives one access to higher ideas, to higher awareness, connecting with your guides, and seeing through the veil of illusion. So for me, the intoning, the energy work, and the harmonics go very close together in this.
I wouldn't put a specific label on it because I don't know. Because I don't know, and so I can't label it. But I know that, for example, I have lost my parents. I lost them when I was very young, and I never felt that they had really left in any way. You know, that they were always around in some place, but I don't know where that place is. One day I will, when my time runs out as a human, I will know the answers, or maybe not, who knows. But I wouldn't put a label on it. For me, though, I agree with Nestor. And I also think that the more grounded you are, the higher you can access. You can reach. You need to have a good connection with the mother, with that energy, with the earth energy, so that you can really then go up and come back down safely. And I very much enjoyed the meditation we did together, because it is so similar to what we do every day. And so thank you so much for starting the interview.
Thank you.
That was very important.
That was very important. And I totally agree with what Michele says. We are constantly surrounded in this ascension process that humanity is living through, whatever you want to call it. We don't like the terminology new age, but new consciousness, new way of thinking, or in fact, the old consciousness coming back again after a few thousand years holiday. And and we notice that everybody wants to work with the third eye and with the crown, and it's difficult to come across workshops where they focus really on the lower three chakras, which is where humanity's work is. If we hope to access the divine, we really have to be grounded in the earth, work through our creativity and sexuality and all those repressed stuff in the pelvic area, and work also with the solar plexus and the ego and the fire, channeling fire, etc. So those first three chakras, I think, is really where the work is, although everybody wants to jump straight up to the higher chakras and fly.
Yes, that's where the spiritual bypassing happens.
Yes, spiritual bypass.
We're here to anchor. Yeah, we are here to anchor the higher consciousness here.
Absolutely.
Not just
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's interesting, if I just may say, that the first third and fourth chakras, there is an interesting thing people do, and that is if they do want to expand their consciousness and actively look for an education, then they may come across the workings of those first three chakras, the four chakras, the heart chakra. But when they get to the heart chakra, they do that spiritual bypass, but they do more than that. They do a quantum leap. They jump straight from the heart and they go straight to the third eye and want to heal everybody. And they completely abandon the throat chakra.
Yeah.
The throat chakra is not attended to. And it's only recently. And of course, and then they start their projects and everything is wonderful. It is wonderful to want to help other people. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a great life, because if you haven't worked your throat chakra, then you are still going to get confrontation. You are still going to get issues around people not understanding you. You're even going to get physical problems with your throat, because I do think that the throat needs to be attended to. And I think that these days people are starting to wake up. And that's why there's so much holistic coaching, holistic vocal coaching going on these days, where people are really understanding that part so that the chakras then can come into alignment.
Sure. I think in our human condition, the throat chakra is vitally important. Not just for singing, but for general communication, obviously. And of course, many people forget completely that the ears belong to the communication chakra. All they want to do is express outwards, and they don't realize that 50% of communication is allowing yourself to perceive and to hear. Very often hearing things that are not obviously there, but nuances, textures, and so it's a shame if people want to jump straight to the higher chakras, because sound can take you there, but it's just about doing it in a grounded way. Yeah.
True, but as we are ascending, we are here to anchor in that higher consciousness, bring that higher consciousness here on earth, because we are taking the earth into higher vibration. Thank you for tuning in from wherever you are in the world. As Ramdas says, that we are just walking each other home. So thank you for co-creating the new earth along with me and my guests. If you resonate with me, subscribe to my channel, like, comment and share. Let's keep this beautiful energy in flow, in motion. Namaste. Lots of love.